Hey kid, yeah you, over here, over here. Hey you that one with all those gardening videos, right? Yeah, I knew that was you. I saw you. Yeah, I saw you on YouTube. Hey, man, I got the stuff right here. I got the best stuff. Make your garden grow real good. Yeah, here, you try this. Oh, come on, just a little bit. You try it once. I promise you'll be back. Nah, I'm good, man. I got my own plan. Yeah, he'll be back. They always come back. I've been slinging this stuff all day long. Well, hello there, good people. I'm back out here next to my mushroom planting area, where about a week or two ago I put in some King Stropharia or wine cap mushroom spawn. Now the temperature's been kind of cold, and so I don't anticipate that there's going to be much mycelium growth as of yet. The wine cap mushroom is going to expand and spread out whenever the temperature gets above 70 degrees. It's just getting about to that point now. So over the next month or so, we'll see some mycelial growth, but I don't anticipate getting any mushrooms out of this area until fall, whenever the temperature drops down again and they'll start fruiting. Hopefully in the next few weeks I'll be able to get my hands on some oyster mushroom spawn that I can add to this bed, and I should see some oyster mushrooms during the cooler parts of the summer months and earlier in the fall, just before the wine cap mushroom starts to come on. I'm going to try to grow both mushrooms in the same bed area. But today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different in this same area, and that would be growing my own fertilizer. You may remember from a couple of weeks ago, put a card up there for you. A couple of weeks ago I ran a do-it-yourself at-home soil test and discovered that we were low on potassium and nitrogen in the soil. And the native soil has plenty of phosphorus, but I needed to figure out some way to add more nitrogen and more potassium, and I think I have a solution right here. Let's take a look. Alright, this is from Seed Ranch. I picked it up late last year. It is 5 pounds of Trifolium repens, which is Dutch white clover. It's about 50% seed, close to 50% inert matter, which is a bentonite clay that surrounds the seeds. It's very dusty. So in each one of these little tiny pellets is a little bit of the clover seed and a bit of the bacteria that forms the association with the roots of the clover. Clover is a leguminous plant, which means that it has an association with bacteria at the root level, where the roots will capture nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form that the plant can use. Now, those nodules of nitrogen that are formed by the bacteria are not just available to the clover, but if I come along and I cut the clover off, some of the roots will die off, leaving some of those nodules of nitrogen in the soil, and those are now available to other plants for them to use as well. So by growing the clover, by keeping it cut short, I continually refresh the nitrogen going into the soil. To help scatter it, I have a salt shaker, which has very large holes, which are excellent for sprinkling the seed on the seed bed area. Let's have a look. So just like sprinkling salt over your food, I'm sprinkling this Dutch white clover seed all over the seed bed area, which here in a few days will start to germinate and produce lots of little clover plants growing in this spot. Now my hope is, that as that clover grows and I cut it off, the dead foliage will provide food for earthworms, which we'll be adding in shortly as well. Of course, nitrogen wasn't the only thing that the soil appeared to be deficient in. We're also deficient in potassium. And what can I do to add potassium to the soil? Well, that's where this comes in. I have some borage here, Borigo officinalis. Now, borage is what is commonly referred to as a dynamic accumulator. And there are a few things I need to tell you about dynamic accumulators, fact and fiction. And I'll get to that in a moment. But for starters, last night I took a handful of these seeds and put them in this cup and filled it full of water to let them soak. Now I've noticed that there are some seeds that are floating on the surface. Probably these ones will not germinate. I'm going to pull them out and cast them aside, and if they happen to sprout anyway, I won't mind. But the rest of these seeds have been soaking overnight. They sunk to the bottom. I'm pretty sure these ones are going to germinate. So I'm going to put these in to this bed area as well. Alright, they're down there and I'll cover them up in a minute. Borage gets pretty big, so once they germinate and start to grow, I'll thin those plants down until I have 3, maybe 4, possibly 5 at the most in there. Alright, I said before there was some fact and fiction regarding dynamic accumulators that I needed to inform you about. Well, here it is. Dynamic accumulator is a nice, fun word, but what does it really mean? Well, it means that we have a plant that has a tendency to put down a deep taproot and mine the subsoil for certain minerals. But here's a caveat. If the minerals aren't in the subsoil, it doesn't matter how good the plant is at accumulating them, there won't be any minerals accumulated by that plant. Now, borage is one of those plants that can accumulate calcium and it can accumulate potassium. If there is calcium and potassium in the subsoil, the borage plant will be able to accumulate into the plant body itself. And then whenever I cut the plant and allow it to decompose, that material will go into the upper layer of the soil where other plants can make use of it. I don't know how well it's going to work because I don't know how much potassium is in the subsoil. Hopefully there's going to be some. The soil underneath is very heavily mineralized, and I have a feeling that most of what was in the upper level of soil has just washed down and is in the subsoil region now. So all I really need to do is bring it back. Where's that? Now I've got some seeds planted in this bed area. I'm just going to cover it up a little bit. Alright, let's give these guys a little bit of a soak. Preferably on a wide setting, not a blast. Now I know some of you are thinking right now, and probably saying it loud, yelling at the screen, hey, Jason, you said, and not so long ago, that wood chips are bad for growing seeds in because the roots won't be able to get down to the soil that they need in order to grow. What in the world makes you think that planting these seeds is going to be any good at all? Well, I'll tell you. I didn't lie. Weeds don't like to grow in wood chips because they can't get their roots down to the soil. And the only reason that I feel that these plants are going to do okay is because they have very long root systems, for one, and for two, The Dutch white clover has that unique ability to form an association with bacteria on the roots to produce nitrogen for the plant. If not for that, the Dutch white clover would not grow very well. If not for the long taproot of the borage plant, it wouldn't grow very well. But I have high confidence that these plants will do pretty well in this space. Alright, so you're following along and you've seen that I put down a plant that's going to help me produce nitrogen and a plant that's going to help me produce potassium. But you're wondering, what about phosphorus? Now, we were watching and we know that you have pretty good phosphorus in your soil. But what if we don't have good phosphorus in our soil? What if we want to grow a plant that's going to help extract some phosphorus for us? Well, I do have a plant that does that. And this is the seed head of that plant. I don't have any currently growing to show you because it's a little bit early. They haven't germinated yet, but I do have these planted in some other places around the property. This is the seed head for an elephant trunk amaranth, and this is a pretty small seed head. It's a great plant. I can't wait to show you what it looks like whenever it starts blooming. You're going to love it. But these seed heads come up about 4 foot off of the ground whenever the plant's at its full maturity. They're a lovely burgundy red, and they're full of tiny little black seeds, which I'll try to get some out right now. There's just a few. I don't want to overdo it because I don't really want to plant any back here at the moment. Let me give you a look at those seeds right there. Tiny little black seeds, a whole bunch of them. Those are the seeds for the elephant trunk amaranth. Which is a great plant for mining for phosphorus. Also, the seeds are edible. High in omega-3s. Yum yum. The numbers that you see on bags of chemical fertilizer are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are the nutrients that are provided by the chemical fertilizer, but you can get those nutrients in other ways. Now, why in the world would a person want to use alternate methods instead of using the chemical fertilizer to get their nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium? Well, I can think of a couple. To begin with, if you can grow your own fertilizer, you're already ahead on money. And that's a good incentive, but an even better incentive is this. Whenever you use chemical fertilizers, you'll get really good growth for the first year, maybe even the second year. But after that, the fertility drops off unless you start adding on more fertilizer. Kind of like an addictive drug. You have to keep using more and more to keep on getting that same good result. And there's another downside to it as well. A lot of that fertilizer leaches into the soil and goes off into the rivers and the streams, flowing downstream until it reaches the estuaries. That's where the rivers empty out into the ocean. Around every major river in the world, there are dead zones. Dead zones occur whenever those nutrients reach the estuaries and cause the algae to bloom. Large amounts of algae suck up large amounts of oxygen, and when they die, bacteria start consuming those algae. Those bacteria also use up a large amount of oxygen, leaving that entire region of ocean depleted of oxygen, to the point where no marine life can live there. In the Mississippi Delta alone, last year, the dead zone was near 6,000 square miles, with a record of nearly 9,000 square miles. That's a lot of economic damage, not to mention ecological damage, caused by using chemical fertilizers. So, if you can find a way to do without them, please do. Well, good people, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and bang that notification bell, and I will catch you next time.